There comes a moment, quiet, piercing, and irreversible, when the ones who wounded you are finally forced to sit with the weight of what they've done. While you are left to carry the sting of betrayal, the ache of abandonment, and the confusion of being discarded, they moved on as if nothing happened. But time is not blind, and truth is not weak. The pain they caused you, though deep, is not eternal. Wounds heal, souls rise, but what they inherit in return is something far more haunting: regret. Not just a passing thought, but a slow burning awareness that they traded something real for something easy. And that kind of mistake does not fade. It lingers. It follows. It speaks in the silence. Your pain may have shaped you, but their regret will define them. Pain is temporary, but the consequences of betrayal are eternal. There's something deeply human about pain. It demands our full attention, consumes our thoughts, and often convinces us it will never end. When someone betrays your trust, the emotional weight of that fracture can feel unbearable. It doesn't just affect how you feel, it reshapes how you see yourself, how you view relationships, and how safe you feel in the world. But pain, as loud as it may be, has a life cycle. It speaks in the present tense, but it does not have the power to define your future unless you let it. It's important to understand that emotional pain is like a storm. It rolls in suddenly, does damage, but eventually it passes. And when it does, clarity takes its place. Those who cause that pain, however, are on a different path. They may have acted in a moment of selfishness, weakness, or carelessness. At first, they may feel justified. They may even appear unaffected, continuing with their lives as if your suffering was just a minor detail in a story that revolves around them. But what they cannot escape, no matter how hard they try, is the echo of what they've done. Betrayal always leaves behind a shadow, and that shadow doesn't follow the person they hurt, it follows the betrayer. The human conscience has a strange way of waking up over time. Sometimes it takes days, other times it takes years, but it always stirs eventually. And when it does, it brings with it a deep, gnawing awareness. I chose to hurt someone who trusted me. That awareness does not scream the way pain does. It whispers in moments of silence. It shows up in unexpected memories. It attaches itself to new relationships, new places, and new experiences, reminding them that something they once had, something pure and valuable, was lost by their own hand. While your pain leads to growth, forcing you to examine your heart, strengthen your boundaries, and rise from the ashes, the consequences of betrayal become a burden they must carry with no visible wound. And that's what makes it so enduring. You can heal because your suffering was honest. It came from love, from vulnerability, from truth. Their regret, on the other hand, stems from a place they often try to hide, from the knowledge that they broke something they cannot rebuild. You were forced to change because of what happened. They will be forced to remember it. Every success you achieve, every piece of joy you reclaim becomes a quiet testimony to your resilience and a reminder to them of what they lost. Pain for you was a chapter, but for them, the regret becomes a recurring theme. And unlike pain, regret does not make us stronger. It corrodes quietly. It doesn't teach, it haunts. The timeline is clear. Your pain will fade. The days will come when you'll breathe easier, laugh deeper, and trust again with wiser eyes. But the ones who hurt you will have to face what they chose to become. And that realization, when it finally arrives, will stay far longer than the pain you once knew. You paid the price with integrity, they will pay with remorse. When everything falls apart, when the truth is twisted, and when people walk away from you without explanation or compassion, it's easy to feel like doing the right thing was a mistake. You stood your ground. You stayed loyal. You told the truth, even when it cost you peace. And for that, you were misunderstood, abandoned, or blamed. It may have felt like you were the one being punished for having a good heart. But what you held on to, your integrity, is not a weakness. It's a foundation that holds its value when everything else begins to collapse. In a world where people often choose convenience over commitment and appearance over accountability, integrity can feel like a burden. But it is not. It is a quiet form of strength, the kind that doesn't need applause. While others look for the fastest escape, you chose to stay honest. Even when you could have retaliated, you didn't. Even when you could have matched their silence, you spoke truth. That path may have led to more tears, more solitude, and more questions than answers, but it also kept your character intact. And what about those who walked away, those who chose deception over transparency? They may have looked like they were getting ahead, like life rewarded their selfishness, but appearances lie. Behind the smiles and distractions, behind the curated lives they try to project, there is something they cannot run from, the reality of what they did. Because when a person hurts someone who was loyal to them, it doesn't just pass by unnoticed. It may not be seen by the world, but it's recorded in the quiet places of their own conscience. Remorse doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it takes a specific event, a moment of reflection, a failed relationship, a night of silence for it to awaken. But when it does, it doesn't simply knock. It settles in. The very same choices that seem so easy at the time begin to look different when viewed through the lens of time and distance. They start to see what you gave, what you endured, and what they threw away. And with that realization comes the weight of regret. Meanwhile, the price you paid for your integrity begins to show its worth. Because you did not lose yourself in the storm. You did not become bitter. You did not adopt the methods of those who mistreated you. That discipline, the choice to remain true to your values, becomes your strength. It becomes the reason you rise, the reason you rebuild stronger than before. And they'll carry the memory of your loyalty. They'll see glimpses of your spirit in others, but it won't feel the same. Because what they walked away from wasn't just a person, it was a rare kind of honesty. And that realization will echo in the background of their lives long after your tears have dried. Remorse is not always loud. Often it is quiet, but persistent, and it will follow them not as punishment, but as truth-seeking balance. Silence screams loudest when conscience awakens. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace. It comes from realization. It arrives not when life is busy and loud, but in the quiet moments when distractions fade. It's in those hours, often late at night or in still solitude, that the mind begins to process what the heart has buried. For those who have caused harm, ignored your pain, or dismissed your worth, the silence they once found comfortable begins to feel suffocating. That's the moment when conscience begins to awaken. At first, silence is a luxury for those who walk away. It spares them from difficult conversations, uncomfortable truths, and the guilt that follows empathy. They may think that not speaking is the same as not feeling, and for a while that illusion works. Life moves on. They fill their days with noise, new people, new plans, anything to avoid looking inward. But silence has a strange way of returning, and when it does, it no longer offers escape, it delivers truth. You, on the other hand, were left in that silence early. You sat with the confusion, the heartbreak, the unanswered questions, and through it all you began to listen to your own voice, your own needs, and your own strength. That silence, though painful, became your teacher. It showed you who you are without the noise of someone else's chaos. It gave you clarity, not immediately, but gradually. You found healing in that stillness, even though it hurt at first. But for those who cause the damage, silence becomes a mirror. When there is no more drama to hide behind, no more justifications left to lean on, they are left with the truth of what they've done. The conscience, once quieted by ego or denial, begins to speak, and what it says cannot be ignored forever. It reminds them of the trust they broke, the kindness they took for granted, and the loyalty they answered with distance. These aren't things that fade with time. They return in silence, and they speak with clarity. The louder their life once was, the more piercing that silence becomes. They may look back on moments they dismissed as insignificant and suddenly see their weight. A message left unread, a truth avoided, a person they should have held closer. In the silence, these moments grow louder. And they can't rewind time. They can't unspeak words or undo the coldness they once justified. That is the quiet form of consequence, realization, without a way to reverse it. While your silence led to self-discovery, theirs leads to remorse. And it's not always visible. You may never hear the apology. You may never see the guilt written on their face. But it exists and it lingers. Because silence doesn't just reveal who we are, it confronts us with who we've been. And for those who ignored your voice when it was soft and honest, the loudest sound they'll ever hear is their own conscience, echoing in the stillness they once used to avoid the truth. Your growth will be their reminder. One of the most powerful things you can do after someone breaks your trust, belittles your worth, or walks away from you as if you were disposable, is to grow. Not to prove anything, not to seek revenge, but to become the person they never believed you would become. Growth isn't loud, it doesn't need to be announced, it's steady, it's quiet, and it's undeniable. It's what happens when you take the pain they caused and use it as the soil for something stronger. In the beginning, your growth may not look like much. It may simply be learning how to breathe without their presence, how to get through the day without needing their validation. You might not see the progress right away, but every moment you choose to rise instead of collapse is a step forward. Healing starts in those private decisions you make when no one is watching, when you decide not to reach out again, not to explain yourself anymore, and not to chase someone who was comfortable letting you go. What they don't realize is that your growth is inevitable because what they broke didn't destroy you, it refined you. You took the shattered pieces of what they left behind and slowly rebuilt. And what you're building now is rooted in self-respect. It's grounded in clarity. It's built on lessons you never asked for but learned anyway. And as you move forward, stronger and wiser, you begin to create a life that reflects everything they failed to see in you. That's when the shift happens. One day, they will see you, not the version they dismissed or misunderstood, but the one who emerged after the pain. They'll come across your name, your smile, your progress, and something within them will pause. Because while you were healing in silence, they were living as if nothing had changed. But change did happen. It just happened in you. And now, your growth becomes their reminder. A reminder of the person they misjudged. A reminder of the loyalty they discarded. A reminder of the depth they couldn't handle. They'll look at you and realize they weren't just losing someone. They were losing something rare. And that realization will not fade quickly. It will follow them in subtle ways, in the people they try to connect with, in the choices they regret, in the moments of stillness when they remember what they once had but didn't value. Your growth in the end is not about them, it's about you. But it will speak volumes to them without a single word. It will be in how your eyes no longer carry pain, how your presence no longer seeks approval, and how your life continues to rise with dignity. And the more you thrive, the more their silence becomes filled with reminders, not of what they did, but of what they lost. That's the quiet cost of underestimating someone who was always real. Justice doesn't always wear a robe. Sometimes it's time and truth. Justice is often imagined as something swift, visible, and loud, like a courtroom decision or a dramatic confrontation. But real justice, especially the kind that matters most in emotional and personal betrayals, rarely arrives that way. It doesn't always come through a grand moment of accountability or a clear apology. Sometimes it moves in silence. Sometimes it shows up slowly. And often it comes not from other people, but from the passage of time and the power of truth revealing itself. When someone wrongs you, there's a natural desire to see fairness play out. You want the world to recognize what they did, to understand the weight you carried, and to watch consequences fall into place. But life doesn't always work on your schedule. At first, it may even feel unfair, like those who hurt you are being rewarded, as if the pain you endured was invisible to everyone else. They may move forward without reflection, while you're left picking up the emotional pieces. That's the part that feels the most unjust, the silence from life itself. But what you don't see in those early moments is how truth always outlives deception. While someone can mask their actions or deny their intentions, they can't hide from the long-term effects of their choices. Time is an unrelenting revealer. It doesn't just expose what people did, it reveals who they are. And eventually the masks fall. What they thought was forgotten or dismissed comes back in unexpected ways, often when they least expect it. Your role in this process isn't to chase justice. It's to keep your path honest, to remain grounded, and to trust that integrity always bears fruit, even if it takes longer than you'd like. The healing you go through is not just for your peace. It's a quiet form of justice in itself, because while they may have left you broken, they didn't get to keep the final chapter. That story still belongs to you. Over time, people begin to see what really happened, not through confrontation, but through contrast. They see your strength, your growth, your stability, and when their own life starts to reflect the consequences of their earlier choices, failed connections, emotional emptiness, or unresolved guilt, truth begins to speak louder than any accusation could. That's how time works, slowly, but with precision. Eventually, the truth catches up. It may not shout, but it doesn't whisper either. It settles in people's lives as natural outcomes, shaped by the character they lived with and the choices they made. That is justice, not always seen in courtrooms or arguments, but in how life reflects back the energy we gave to it. So trust in the process. You don't need to force a reckoning. The truth is patient and time is thorough. And when they finally see what they've lost, when they begin to feel the echo of what they once ignored, that is justice. Not because you demanded it, but because it was always meant to come.